What's up, Rita? How you doing?
Happy Thursday Eve, Mike.
Friday Eve. I bet, you see the third.
What did I say? Thursday Eve? When it's warm outside, any day can be whatever you want it to be because it all runs together at that point.
Makes me wonder what kind of plans you have because you're already thinking ahead. You got something big. But the incentives, Rita, are scary. Hey, he's got to lead the team in receptions, touchdown receptions, and all this. And I think you don't necessarily have a great receiver there, but you got a pretty great tight end. Some say the best in football. If you're in the red zone, Lamar Jackson doesn't run it in. If he runs it in, maybe Odell's like, damn, it's 3 yards, man. Just give me a little 3-yarder. I got money on the line. Or if he doesn't run it in, and he tosses it to Andrews, he's like, damn, I'm open. I need to see it though. I need to hold it. I need to see that paper. But agreement in principle, $6 million. Josh Harris, add the Washington Commanders to the list. And Daniel Snyder, ding, freaking dong. The witch is dead.
Thing that I love most about him, you look at the regular season numbers, and he's better in the postseason than he is the regular season. So what we call him is a big game.
Yeah.
The bigger the moment, the bigger he plays. Who the hell you think Patrick's going to throw the ball to?
Right.
You're going to throw it to him.
Right.
They know that. Okay.
I tried warning our defense, Shannon. I tried to do this on
80,000 people know that. Patrick Mahomes know that. He knows they're throwing the ball, and the defense knows he's going to get the ball.
Yeah.
And somehow he still finds a way to come down with the football. When it's all said and done, I don't know how you make an argument that says Trav isn't the greatest tight end.
Mm-hmm.
How do you formulate an argument that says he's not the greatest?
In a word, easily, Unc. And listen, before we get to two of the GOAT reporters and insiders and Marc J. Spears and Charles Robinson, I figured let's have some GOAT talk, inspired by one Shannon Sharpe and his appearance that you just heard there on a New Heights podcast. And maybe he sees a lot of himself in Travis Kelce, or maybe he was just kind of like, being gracious to the podcast host or something like that.
Yeah. That's it.
With all due respect to Travis Kelce, who's a monster, anybody who knows anything about football, and needless to say, those three guys, the Kelce brothers and Shannon Sharpe, have forgotten more football than I know. But it's Rob Gronkowski, unless we're only talking about receiving. Because if you want to specify greatest receiving tight ends of all time, then two of them were in that clip. Shannon Sharpe, definitely up there. Shannon Sharpe was a wide receiver. Travis Kelce puts up wide receiver numbers, okay? And then you're talking about Antonio Gates. You're talking about Kellen Winslow, so on and so forth. But Tony Gonzalez, look, I got to look Tony. All right, there's an argument that Travis Kelce might not be the best one in franchise history, let alone NFL history.
Exactly.
I gotta go see that man every Thursday night for Amazon, so I had better say Tony Gonzalez. Thank you for including my man Gonzalez. But my point is, it's like, unless we're only talking about tight ends from a receiving standpoint, if we're talking two-way tight ends, there is no debate. It's Rob Gronkowski. Because Rob Gronkowski, as you well know, and we can make this quick, was as good of a blocker as he was a receiver. And that's saying something.
Devastating. And I'll just say this, without even getting into it, because we agree on this, Mike. It really depends on how you see the position. And this is one of those things, like tight end is gonna follow the same route that wide receivers did. Like, if you look at Lynn Swann's career numbers, he had like 300-something catches in his career. He's a Hall of Famer. 332 catches. All right.
Right.
Some guys get that over 2 years. So the guys is Michael Thomas a better wide receiver than Lynn Swann? The numbers say so, but is that really the case? So you got to understand. You got to ask yourself, what do you want from the position? What are you demanding? You want a guy who can catch it and just catch it only and be a glorified big receiver?
Do they even ask Travis Kelce to block? Like, does he even do that at all?
If they ask him to block, it's a decoy. It's a decoy.
Yeah.
It's like one of those fake screens in basketball. Like, just occupy that space for a second. Now go out into the route. So, like, okay,
and that's not shading Travis
Kelce.
That's not shading Travis Kelce. He's amazing. But I prefer my tight ends that do both. Get you a tight end that can do both.
That conversation told me that Shannon Sharpe is gracious. He is gracious.
He is a gracious.
He's able to say very nice things when they're not necessarily true.
And here's another. Well, he may believe it because Kelce is more in his vein. But here's another name that I want to put out there. He's kind of like the Jim Brown of tight ends. He's the Don Hudson of tight ends, and that's Mike Ditka. What Mike Ditka was doing back in his day, talk about revolutionizing and redefining, or really he's the prototypical tight end, just in black and white. But the reason I wanted to start there, man, because it's never a bad time to get into some. John Mackey. There's got a whole award named after him, right? I'm sure we left out some other great names. It's always a good time for some GOAT talk. And as we get close to starting the actual playoffs, wrap up these play-in games and get to the NBA playoffs, I wanted to get way ahead of ourselves, if you don't mind, Michael. Because there's an ongoing conversation that you and I have had during the 2+ years of this show that I'm still not quite sure. No, not analytics.
Russell Westbrook?
Not Russell Westbrook. But I'm still not quite sure if you're trolling me or if you believe it, or option 3, if you said it so much you've convinced yourself that it's true. And you should know what I'm talking about. But I'm one of these people that
I believe it.
Okay. I'm one of these people that I don't think, first of all, I hate using championships to measure individual greatness. It's a team accomplishment. Yeah. Which is why in the Michael Jordan versus whoever GOAT conversation, you will never hear me say 6 in the finals. You will never hear me bring up the number 6. Exactly. I'm also, though, one of these people who prides myself on not being so dug in on his opinions that my mind can't be changed. And I've always feared a day where I had to reevaluate everything I knew to be true. But I've always tried to leave open that possibility. And
take your time.
How would I approach that day if it came? Ooh. So here's so we talked about this kind of sort of when LeBron became the all-time scoring leader this season. It's like, well, we knew he was going to be the all-time scoring leader. We knew he could score. We knew it was the second best thing that he did. You know, it wasn't his preferred basketball play. He loved to pass more than he loved to score. So that shouldn't have changed the conversation for anybody. But here's what I'm getting at. Lakers, Grizzlies, there's a lot of people, yours truly included, who like the Lakers in this series. There's a lot of people who think these Lakers who started 2-10, these Lakers who were at the bottom of the Western Conference standings, these Lakers who had the Russell Westbrook, aforementioned Russell Westbrook albatross, these Lakers who kind of found themselves even in LeBron's absence for much of the second half of the season. These Lakers who have the best record in the Western Conference since the trade deadline. Let me just get to the point. What if LeBron goes on a run? Because he's not just along for the ride. He ain't Bill Walton waving a towel. Like, what if LeBron drives the Lakers to the finals out of the Western Conference? Damn, what if, let's go a step farther. What if LeBron actually finds a way to add a 5th title to his resume? Because there's some people who will be like, hey, y'all skip over Kobe all the time. Y'all skip over Magic, and I'm coming back to Magic in a second. Because there's another name I want to get to in this GOAT talk. But it's like, what if LeBron ends up with a 5th? Because most people look at the bubble championship and they assign an asterisk to it if they give him credit for it at all, quite honestly.
Ridiculous. It counts.
What if the Lakers come out of the West? What if he wins a championship at 38 years old? He's already still one of the best players in the league at damn near 40. What if he adds another championship? What will people like me do?
Right.
What is we gonna do? Do I have to look at him differently? Do I have to look at? Do I have to? I mean, he's already in the conversation for greatest of all time. Ain't much higher he could go. But if he adds a 5th ring to his resume, because resumes do matter. To me, championships don't define players, but resumes do matter. And I'm sorry, rings are a great separator. If this dude, and again, we're a long way from this, but if this dude gets past the Grizzlies and then gets past the Warriors, sorry, Kings, but the Warriors.
I know. It's so funny. I love this. I love it. I love this conversation.
And KD and the Suns, if they're in the conference finals, I mean, and then Giannis. I mean, I'm just letting my imagination run wild here. So I'll stop rambling.
And I like that. No, I like it. I like your imagination running wild. I think it's funny that I think both teams are going to lose in the first round. The Lakers The Lakers going to lose to the Grizzlies. The Dubs going to lose to the Kings. But anyway, I like the exercise because I like the thought.
Okay.
I've been there.
Well, wait. All right. Well, wait a second. Since you got ahead of me getting ahead of ourselves. I'll say one more thing, then give it back, and I promise you just one more thing.
Go ahead.
Let's just combine them then, because the other person who's had a title on lock. So there's greatest player, and this guy doesn't get mentioned enough when it comes to greatest player. But when you get more specific and go greatest point guard, it's always been Magic Johnson as long as I can remember. What if Steph gets a 5th ring? Because you and I were among the first to stop qualifying Steph Curry as, he's the GOAT shooter. No, he's one of the greatest players. Greatest point guard, I don't think conventional wisdom has him surpassing Magic. But what if he matches Magic's 5 with the way he's redefined the position? So okay, go ahead. Take LeBron and Steph. And run with both of those possibilities. Go ahead.
I'm going to tell you this. One, I'm going to go all the way back to let's go back to the beginning, as James Brown used to say. Let's go back to the beginning, way back there. Okay, Fred, let's go back. So you said you didn't know if I was telling the truth, if I was trolling you, or something like that about
because you always laugh. You always do that cackle after you say it. Yeah, I do. Know.
And I start off trolling. It's very astute on your part. I started off trolling you, but I actually believe it. If I have to say who's the greatest player of all time, just you got to name one person without any kind of qualifications. Greatest player of all time to me is LeBron James. Now I've done this. That's the second time I've done this in my life. These are very, very risky moves. These are risky emotional moves where you have a place reserved for somebody and you don't think it's going to change. And then circumstances happen and they force you to move your previous sacred person out of their sacred spot and replace them. So I did that once before. Joe Montana had the quarterback spot. He had it locked down.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, he did.
I had Joe Montana. Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Joe Montana's my guy.
Yep.
Hey, what about the numbers?
Yeah.
I don't care about the numbers. What about this? I don't care what you say. Joe Montana is the model for what I want at the quarterback spot. And then Tom Brady came along.
He was the guy. Yeah.
And then I had to switch. Yeah. I never thought it would happen. Jordan, you know how I feel about Jordan. This ain't no colorism thing, Mike. Don't start talking about colorism on a Friday. But it's part of the story. It's part of it. Anyway, so I had Jordan there. And I had to move Jordan out for the Akron Hammer, the king, that kid from Akron, LeBron. And Magic Johnson is my number 1 point guard. Don't even think about moving Magic out. And even if Steph wins a championship and finals MVP, his second MVP, second straight, nah, man. I just say, like, Steph is tremendous. Okay. But Magic at point guard, that's the way the game that's how it's supposed to look. That's what you're supposed to
see. I think so. The very thing that you accuse me of when it comes to Michael Jordan, because you always point out the fact that I got a shit ton of Jordans in my closet. And I wear Jordan jogging pants every day.
You wearing what you got on? What you got on now?
Socks. I got on socks. No. I got socks. No holes in them, I don't think. Just some old raggedy black Nike socks, though. But no, I mean.
That's not okay. Nike socks.
Sarah,
that's a Nike.
Nothing pisses my
that's a Jordan.
Sidebar. Nothing pisses my wife off more than when I walk past the front door in my shoes. You know what? We no marriage counseling, no trial separation. I'm getting effing divorced if my wife caught me walking around in Jordans. Okay, so sidebar. I ain't never got my shoes on in the house. Yeah, she hates that. She's like, you're bringing everything from the street and the world into my house. Take your shoes off at my door, okay?
It's so funny. Okay, sidebar to your sidebar.
Sidebar to my sidebar.
Sidebar to your sidebar then she's just being polite to me when I come and I say, hey, you want me to take my shoes off? And she goes,
that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. Don't worry about it.
Take your shoes. Take your damn shoes off.
But she mopping the floor. She mopping the floor as soon as you leave, or having me mop the floor, as it were.
Good to know.
So, but the same thing that I do, the same thing that you accuse me of doing when it comes to Michael Jordan, you and other people like you who are older than me. I think there's a Venn diagram, but the people who are older than me by about a decade, okay?
By 9 years.
Who look at Magic Johnson as untouchable, as the prototype. Why can't Steph be the prototype? Why, okay, Steph isn't 6'9", okay? And Steph is an amazing passer,
Go ahead. Keep
but
saying
it's
all
not
the
the
things
passer that Magic was.
I want you to answer. I want you to answer. I want you to keep saying all the things that Steph is not, that Magic was, and then you'll have your answer.
There
He's
are
not
things.
6'9".
Wait a minute.
Okay,
there are
he's not
things.
6'9".
There are things.
He can't play five positions.
He can't play center. Okay, he can't play center.
All right.
He's not putting up triple doubles. But aside from that, there are things. There are things that Steph Curry could do that Magic couldn't do in his sleep or in his dreams. I beg your pardon. There are ways that Steph Curry has changed the game in his own right. Certainly built on the shoulders of Magic and Michael, but I don't think Steph Curry takes a backseat to anybody when it comes to impact on the game or impact on winning. So I'm saying, I think just like some of us need to let go of our Jordan nostalgia when it comes specifically to point guard or just these all-time greatest players lists, if Steph were to, even if he doesn't, if he were to add to his resume and his legacy with another ring, I think that's a fair conversation to have. I'm getting, again, way ahead of ourselves. We're talking about the freaking 6 and 7 seeds right now.
But
I mean, the Western Conference feels that way.
But you can't do that, though. You can't say you don't count championships and then I'm saying it's not the end all be all. No, okay, I'm glad you called. Okay, I just want to make sure. I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth or my neck. Shout out to Cameo. No, I'm saying championships aren't the end all be all for me. I'm not saying they don't come into the conversation, but they're not a mic drop for me. They're not a mic drop. They're not like, it's the only argument I need, Sean. Like, that's not what it is for me. Now, if LeBron at this age, in this conference, in this league, in this economy, okay, comes up with a 5th championship on this team, if Steph, after this season, at this seed, at this age, in this conference, in this league, in this economy, comes up with a 5th ring, I just think we might have to, like we always do, which is the beauty of this time of year, start to re-examine legacy. It's good.
And reconsider legacy.
It's good.
That's what's so fun about it.
It's like the beginning. It's like the beginning of the school year. It's like September all over again. Okay, here's a new. What do we think going into this year? What will change? What will stay the same? What will change? So you're saying if Steph Curry is not the one, he might be the prototype. Is that what you're saying? Are you saying that about Steph?
If not, you are the prototype. My second greatest MC of all time. Thank you very much. My second greatest MC of all time.
And can we reconsider that? Can anything change to move him from 2 to 1? I'm saying, can he
2 to 1 over Black Thought? No.
Can he go to 1?
Well, here's one reason why 3 Stacks can't become 1. 3 Stacks don't make no music like talking about it. I think the last thing I heard from 3 Stacks was on Donda. Was his feature on Donda.
Okay. Hey, listen, he's still with us.
He's my guy.
With all that talent, talent didn't go anywhere.
We had a whole conversation, like Travis Kelce is adding yardage to his total. LeBron and Steph are adding points and who knows what other hardware to their totals. Unless and until 3 Stacks decides to drop another album or at least some features, it's going to be hard for me to move him past Black Thought, who continues to put out bangers, who continues to drop albums, even at this stage of his career.
And I'm truly just asking the question because he's my 1-2, of course.
I am the only person who's more about the tank than me is Master P. Like I've always been about tanking. I am always about the long term. I'm fascinated by it. The NBA, they can investigate all they want. This is clear as day. Ain't nothing to investigate. They had better not call themselves coming down on the Mavericks because everybody tanks. People have been tanking all season for Wembanyama. Tanking is as much a part of the NBA as the Jerry West logo. The Mavericks just did it in a new and more blatant way when they still had playoff chances, but everybody tanks.
They were in it, and they just blatantly, it was a blatant tank. That's what the NBA's problem with it is. You can't do it like this. There's a right way to do it, Don't just throw it in my face. Isn't there
There's
a
no
R&B
right or
song
wrong
about
way
this?
to love somebody.
There's a song about this.
No, ain't no right or wrong way to love
all kinds of
somebody.
stuff.
Like, tanking is tanking is tanking.
Don't.
It was so egregious, so blatant, Marc J. Spears, that the NBA came down on Mark Cuban with a fine of all of $750,000. I call that
Terrible.
money well spent in the grand scheme of things. The Dallas Mavericks' decision to restrict key players from fully participating in an elimination game last Friday against Chicago undermined the integrity of our sport. Oh, wait, Joe Dumars said that. I don't want to mock my man. Joe Dumars is my guy.
Yeah, I was saying that.
Head of that's my dude. That's my dude. My bad. The Mavericks' actions failed our fans and our league.
Have some more bass in your voice. Have some more bass in your voice. You're going to do Joe Dumars.
But I think 750, which is a lot to us, 750 says it all about the fact that, like, the Mavericks just did the quiet part out loud. Yeah, they were more blatant or more naked, as some have called it. But it's like everybody does it, because if this was really that bad, if this really undermined the integrity of the game, as I believe, Michael, I think you suggested this. They'd have taken the 10th pick if it was really that bad. Spears?
Yeah, no, I mean, I wonder what Cuban's collective total is from his time becoming an owner to, 99 or so?
Oh, my
2000
goodness,
or so
yeah.
to now. Boy,
Yeah.
it's we
Probably
talking
in the
about
8 figures.
deep in the millions there, right? But obviously he didn't care,
7
and
figures.
he knew what the end it was probably worth what the result is, right? So
Correct.
I wonder what kind of after effect it has on the players, though, right? Because you, Luka in particular, you fight all season, and they kind of could have figured out a way still to get in, and no telling once you get in what happens. I mean, Oklahoma City Thunder are certainly, actually both 10 seeds, the Chicago Bulls too, show that as long as you get in, no telling what could happen from there. It would not be surprising to me if the Bulls win today. It would not be surprising to me if the Oklahoma City Thunder win today and end up being the 8th seed in the playoffs. So that's the thing that I feel more bad about, the players not getting the opportunity to decide it and potentially get in the playoffs. Then
that's right.
I mean, like when you make that much money, like, yeah, you get mad, but in the grand scheme of things, they knew what they were doing and knew what the risk was.
No, I totally respect that aspect of it, guys. And I would like to follow up by asking this, though. I totally respect that because, anything is possible, right, Kevin Garnett? But if you're the Mavericks and you determine that your best way for keeping Luka happy long term is keeping that 10th pick and maybe flipping it for a player that can actually help him compete for a championship. If in your evaluation you feel like the best thing in the macro is to not go for the immediate gratification of getting in the play-in and seeing what happens, and maybe you could be the 7th or 8th seed in a wide open West, but rather we need this pick because we need help in the long term, I don't have a problem with that. It may have, optically, it may have looked bad, but practically, I got no issue with it, Michael.
Yeah, but see, okay, if there could be some Black Panther-like version of Adam Silver going into the afterlife and having a brief conversation with David
You were
Stern.
wrong. You were wrong.
David Stern would be like, "What you doing?" You know what? Like, I was the king, man. I was the king. You know what I used to do to the people? I'd take 4 or 5 draft picks from people. I had Chris Paul was traded to the Lakers. I got in the middle of that, and I sent him to the Clippers instead. I did all kinds of stuff because it was my league. And so Mark Cuban really just he trolled Adam Silver. He knew Adam Silver wasn't going to do anything. Man, like, this was, if all these things are true, think about what the NBA said. I'm just going by their words. If they said he failed our league, it was a violation of the player rest policy, they lost on purpose, essentially, to protect their draft choice, and the fans knew about it. Like, think about those accusations. You should take a draft pick away. You should have done something more than a $750,000 fine. That was a weak I mean, that's really a weak punishment. One of the weakest from Adam Silver. I'm surprised, Mark. I'm very surprised.
And it might have been a little finger to the fact of the Warriors game and what happened there, and them not getting, any kind of change in the judgment on that referee call a couple weeks earlier. So certainly it seems to be the president, respectfully to Adam Silver, like when it comes to something like this, or when it comes to even like players being suspended for fighting. I remember, man, I covered Carmelo Anthony when he got, 15 games? Yeah. We've had guys do what he did to Marty Collins this season and get 2. And I'm like, Melo's like, shoot, give me my money back. Like, that affected their playoffs and his ability to mesh with Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson was there for a couple of weeks before he could even play with Melo because of that suspension. So, yeah, this is certainly a different world, a different time. And I do think, rest his soul, David Stern probably would have been a lot harsher.
Yeah. So listen, you said a second ago we talked enough about a team that's not in the playoffs. Said a second ago you wouldn't be surprised to see the Thunder win. This wide open West, Michael and I were just talking about the possibility. Romance is about the possibility of the thing. The playoffs is about the possibility of the thing. We were talking about, like, what if LeBron and these new look resurgent since the trade deadline with a defense and shooting and role players around him, and Anthony Davis healthy, these Lakers or even the Warriors, given their road struggles, but they're still the Warriors, still the champs, so somebody says otherwise. What if these teams manage to go on a run? So I guess just to kind of narrow the focus a little bit, not to go too broad, but the Kings have been this great story, but I don't know that too many people, other than Michael Holley, are actually picking the Kings to dethrone the champs in the first round.
Yeah.
How do you see that series? Matter of fact, are you going to that series? Are you going to get? Because I would love to be there for free.
I would
love to be there for free.
That series.
You're driving, but you ain't paying. But you ain't paying though, because that ticket is out.
Why would I pay?
I know you would. I know you wouldn't. But I'm saying that the people who are, God bless you, given how much that ticket costs for their first playoff game if ever. But how do you see that series?
A long one, a great one. I really like the matchup between De'Aaron Fox and Steph Curry. Neither team really has a complete answer for them. It'll be interesting to see how the Warriors try to guard Fox, who's lightning quick, but he also has a ballet kind of body language to him. Like he just dances on the floor, and I'm so happy for him that the world gets to see how amazing he is. But Andrew Wiggins come in from such a layoff and give some length against Fox. Gary Payton II, I think he's going to get some early minutes to guard Fox if he gets going. And you see that big fella right there, Sabonis. I don't know that the Warriors have any answer for them. They're going to have to be really, really tough on the boards and keep Sabonis off of him. He's a triple-double machine. The thing is like, okay, how do the Kings respond if they get punched in the mouth in game one? This is a team that has been blessed with a lack of adversity. Nothing bad really has happened. They haven't had any injury problems. So I'm always curious about teams that have had such a blessing an entire season. Like when they do get hit in the mouth, if the Warriors win game one, do they stand up? Or do they start thinking, second guessing of whether they really are on that level? They got beat up recently by the Minnesota Timberwolves. They got beat bad by the Bucks. And so maybe there has been some questions. The Kings haven't played that great. Then you're bringing in a Warriors team who have proven that when their guys play, when their big three plays, they don't lose, right? This is the first round. So I think that's why there's a lot of people that have picked the Warriors, but I think it's going to be an amazing series, a great series. And you also got to remember that Mike Brown has a cheat code on the Warriors. He was around them for several years, so he knows everything about everybody and what their strengths and weaknesses and how to push the Draymond button to try to get some text.
Yeah.
I think all is fair, right? And I think Mike is certainly going to try to do everything in his power to have this team prepared to win. And it's this I-80 series, man. It's going to be cool, and I'm really curious to see like how many Kings fans can keep Warriors fans from buying tickets tomorrow.
Yeah, you know what, Mike and Spears, the Warriors. Look, now that the regular season is over, they got that 6th seed. Okay, they're in. Can I just say, this is a team that they talk a lot of trash, man. They talk a lot, and they're so confident. Like Klay Thompson, I don't see anybody who can beat us 4 times. Draymond, he's got his whole list of those who are really.
They earned that.
I'm saying, they've earned it. But I'm going to go here.
This ain't like Memphis talking, right?
Well, right. Not the same. Yeah. They've earned it based on what they've done in the past. Is it still present? I mean, are they still? When you look
They're
at them,
defending champs.
What that mean? Okay, so that means something to you.
Until they're
That's the only place confidence should come from, though. Like, there's
we're not talking
hypothetical
about
confidence.
a Cowboys Super Bowl trophy. We're talking about a team that won last year.
Yeah.
So because they won last year, despite what we see this year, despite road struggles and inconsistency, you look at them as talking trash and be like, go ahead.
I think me and you are kind of right here because I'm just saying they have certainly a reason to have swag. They won a championship. Now, has this team played on the championship
level
this
season? But what do you think
season?
Because they should have it. I'm saying, but now but we're looking at it.
But
we're more objective than they
are. Have they played amazing this season? Have they played consistently on a championship level? No. I do think they did finish the season strongly. But is this team playing capable of a team that you expect to win a title? I don't think so. But now, Wiggins has also been gone. He's back. Will he be able to help them? They're a small team. Look, man, the West is like an old WWF battle royal with all the guys in there fighting. I don't know who's going to end up out of this fight.
Dude,
the Kings could shock the world.
So many storylines.
Denver, Denver don't even get talked about, and they're the number 1 seed, right? Like every team.
The Suns don't lose with Kevin Durant.
I'll say, and I don't even want to say exception to 8th, right? I think every team in the West has the ability to get to that next round.
So the Lakers. So it's not just wishful thinking when it comes to the Lakers. That's the one. Before we pivot to the East, I want to get your take on just how good they could be moving forward, given how they've been flying the plane and building at the same time in the second half.
Can they stop Ja from going downhill? That's the thing. The Memphis Grizzlies like to run, but the Memphis Grizzlies also let their emotions get the best of them. Not having Adams, not having Clark, I think is tough. The key matchup is Jackson Davis. And Jackson is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, but he also averaged a lot of fouls per game. I think he averaged 5 fouls per game in the Memphis series. He has to keep his foul trouble in check, which is going to be easier said than done against Anthony Davis. So to me, that's the key, man. If Anthony Davis plays on a level that we've seen him play in the bubble, this could be a really, really tough series for the Grizzlies. So, and he's playing at a high level right now. LeBron's going to take it to the next level back in the playoffs. All these series are must-see TV, man. I'm like, that's right. Get your popcorn ready.
Right. There are many seasons. There are many seasons. That's a whole new season, and there are many seasons in and of themselves, one series at a time.
Is there is this the first time where you guys would say, think about it, Miami plays Chicago, right? That's going to be an 8th seed. There is no playoff series on either side that you're like, I ain't going to watch that.
No. Well, the thing about the East, though, and you said you wouldn't be surprised if Chicago won. You said you wouldn't be surprised if Chicago won.
I don't think I've ever said that.
Well, in the first round. In the first round, okay, that makes sense. Because I wish DeMar DeRozan's daughter was going, because that even though screaming children.
Take her everywhere. Put her on
take on that, but take her everywhere.
Team.
Take her everywhere, because she clearly is the X factor there. But the Eastern Conference, though, it feels like it's headed for another Boston-Milwaukee collision. But the thing I want to ask you about, though, Spears, before we get you out of here.
Don't sleep on the Sixers, though.
Well, that's what I want to ask you about. And you just talked to Joel Embiid. So talk to us about the Sixers' realistic chances. But more than anything, Mike, I just want to touch on the revisionist history. It feels like there's enough momentum at this point to where Embiid is going to be this year's MVP. It feels that way, okay? Despite all the hue and cry and gnashing of teeth, it feels like it's going to be Embiid's award. Having said that, he said something to you. He was like, where was all that sympathy for me last year? Everybody talking about how the conversation is toxic right now. Where was all, I mean, come on, bro. There was plenty of people caping up for the process the last 2 years. Why does nothing does revisionist history quite like NBA MVP conversations, Mark
I'm
Spears.
so done. I'm so done with it. Go ahead.
Act like he was a red-headed stepchild. Come on, man. There's plenty of people thought he should have got it last year and the year before.
I take it as kind of like a dig on Joker and his comments about not caring. It's not a big deal. And trust me, it's a big deal to Embiid. He wants it. Also,
but the more important one is the finals one.
Or the debate on whether, Joker should have won it the last 2 years and that kind of stuff. Until it's done, I don't know. I know that Tim Bontemps did a straw poll in which Embiid would win, but it wasn't by a big margin. I don't know what to expect when it's all said and done because there are people that might like Giannis. There might be people that might like Tatum. So ultimately, it could come down to who gets the most second-place votes, right? To end up winning this whole thing. It could be a winner that gets more first-place votes, but the latter votes push them over. So this is probably one of the more intriguing MVP ballots that we've ever seen, where every vote will literally count. And it could be about as tight. Like, I've never even really thought about one where there's 4 guys. And yes, Embiid is the clear-cut favorite, but maybe part of his talk is like, hey, I've been disappointed 2 years in a row. I'm not going to count my chickens before they're hatched, right?
But you said don't sleep on them in the Eastern Conference. You said don't sleep on them in the conference.
They're capable of being in the finals.
Because your boy Michael Holley will tell you that the Michael Jordan trophy is the more important trophy.
Thank you. I mean, it's like, stop.
I agree.
Okay. So give him his regular season MVP. Say goodbye. Exit. We got some parting gifts for you in the second round. Same old, same old. Okay. So you got your MVP. You're going to leave the stage, exit stage left
this dude,
after the second round. I'm
Embiid is playing on a really, really special level right now. He's playing a really special level. Will they be favored? Probably not. But he's healthy.
No. Don't say probably.
Healthy.
Say it. Come on, Spears. Say no.
They won't be.
Not be favored.
But that doesn't mean I'm not leaving out the door of them winning. Like, if that dude gets on who is more unstoppable in the league right now than him? I just saw him play a couple weeks ago. And you know what, Mr. Holley, respectfully,
yes, Mr. Spears,
because I have a lot of respect for both of y'all careers. When they come to Boston, right, I want you to go and just see how amazing this dude is. TV does not do him justice. He's a guy that you have to go watch in person to see. It's like Godzilla with a basketball, man. He's just like, so incredible, man. Mark, so nimble.
Mark, I'm familiar with his work.
Yeah, I don't know that the question. I don't know that the issue is Embiid. Like, he hasn't always been dominant in the playoffs, and he's largely skated criticism, and which mainly because there was a whole lot of smoke for Ben Simmons or James Harden or Doc Rivers. I don't know that people are doubting whether Embiid's good enough to get him there, but is his supporting cast good enough to get him there?
Maxey, Harden, Tobias, like, they're gonna have to be big. Tucker's gonna have to play great defense. It has to be, certainly. They have the offensive weapons. What will they do defensively? But this is the first year I really watched him, and I was like, oh, this is scary. This is a different kind of dude.
First time he's healthy.
That Hall of Fame series in a Jordan-esque type way.
All right, Hall of Famer, we appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming through. See you in Springfield real soon,
Sacramento
baby.
time, baby. Give me some
Sacramento
restaurants.
then Springfield.
There we go.
As he is with any NFL story, our brother Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports is all over. Matter of fact, he is the go-to source for whatever this negotiation or non-negotiation, as the case may be, between the Jets and the Packers, what this is at this point. And Charles, I just want to make sure I got this right, because I was pissed last time at the idea that the Jets would want 25 draft compensation in the event that the quarterback that they're choosing to trade for retires after 1 year. So there's that. But your latest, which everybody is picking up now, is that the Packers are okay with that part of it, but they want to hold firm on a 24 first-round pick, which Woody Johnson has reservations about because he's worried about Russell Wilson and how that turned out for the Broncos. Again, why is that the Packers' problem?
No, I mean, nobody's saying it's the Packers' problem. It's the Jets' problem.
when you talk, right, but when you talk to your sources on both sides, because you've been so plugged in on this, can you please talk some sense into them, please?
You know how it is, man. Everyone assesses value in their own way and risk in their own way. And, I think what happened was we had a situation where, remember, before the Jets even met with Aaron Rodgers, there had already been quite a few back and forths on compensation, right? So they were in a compensation zone. They felt, I think both sides felt like we know where we're at on this. And, when you talk to the Packers, and the Packers aren't saying this. I mean, they won't say this publicly. I mean, maybe at some point they'll say this publicly once it's all done. I think the Packers thought they already had a deal in place. And then they felt like something changed. All of a sudden the Jets changed gears on them. And so the question is, well, why would the Jets change gears? And again, I keep bringing this up, the darkness retreat, the comment Aaron Rodgers said about, hey, I felt like I was 90% retired when I went into that. And I think, so you're Woody Johnson, you're the Jets owner. Now here's the buffet of things now you're thinking about. You're going, okay, now I just heard this guy say he was 90% retired when he went into the darkness retreat, and I really want to have this guy for at least 2 years. Can I trust that he's going to be here in 2 years? Remember, this is a guy who just signed a big long-term contract extension, and then 1 year later, he was already contemplating retirement. Can I trust that he really does want to be here for 2 years if he comes here? So that's one. Then it's number two. We think we bring him in, it turns the key on our roster. We're a Super Bowl roster. We're a Super Bowl team. I just watched the Broncos go through that same experience with Russell Wilson, crashed and burned, and now Seattle's picking at 5 with their draft choice.
Then don't trade for him, Woody.
I get it.
Don't trade for him.
Right. Listen, I don't disagree with you. And
I'm just using you as a proxy. I'm just yelling through you.
I get it. But here's the thing. I think if it gets locked up, this is so locked up that they just can't find the middle ground. And I can tell you where it is right now, exactly. But if they just can't find some kind of middle ground here, if you're the Jets and you're just not going to be comfortable with it, you got to walk. You just got to walk and go, okay, we're going to figure out what the plan B is. And then you leave it to the Packers now to sort out. You're now on the hook for that $58 million. When the season starts, when the regular season starts, there's $58 million plus you owe Aaron Rodgers. And you've already put yourself in a predicament where you're like, we've moved on to Jordan Love, we're gonna, and now what are you gonna do now if you're the Packers? So there's a lot of stuff the Packers got to deal with too. If the Jets just go, you know what, we can't do this. This is enough. We want Aaron wants us. It's not gonna work, and now we got to move on. But let me real quick. I'll do this fast because I know we got limited time. Where it's at right now, Packers would like second rounder this year, straight first rounder next year with no qualifiers whatsoever, and they would be willing to, no conditions, and they would be willing to include a 2025 draft give back if for some reason Aaron Rodgers retires after 2023 and does not play for the Jets in 2024. So there's that. The Jets, conversely, would like it to be a 2 this year, a 2 next year that could graduate into a first round pick. Now the exact rules of how that would graduate would still have to be negotiated out. But now I think the Jets, if they could get that, the 2 this year and a 2 that graduates next year, I think the Jets would be okay saying we don't need to give back in 2025. So that's kind of where it is right now.
Okay.
So you figured out. You tell me, how does that work out?
There's light at the end of this tunnel.
Is there though? They're not talking, but they're not talking right now. So is there?
Okay.
They're not currently speaking to each other. So
then the arbitrator. Take it to arbitration. Take it to arbitration.
Take it to Charles Robinson.
Take it to Charles Robinson.
Charles did this for free.
Like, Charles would be like, listen, I hear you. Okay, I hear you. But what I hear him saying is this. You understand? No, just listen. So, Charles, I want to talk to you about expansion, because last time we had an expansion team in the NFL, I think it was 2002, the Texans. They played the Cowboys in that first game. It was great. You know, had David Carr at quarterback for the Texans. And we have another expansion team coming up in the 2023 season. It's a Washington franchise. It's a new start in Washington, Charles. Are you gonna go to their first game? The Josh Harris, Magic Johnson ownership group with the Commanders. There's light. There's freedom and liberation in DC. Amanla, freedom. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about this with Washington?
As one person said to me, and I don't think it's a great 1-for-1, but I kind of get where he was coming from. He was like, this is like Fidel Castro passing away. He's like, this is like the end of the era. I'm like, yeah. I was like, I don't think Cuba really got that much better. I'm like, have you been to Cuba? It's still pretty rough. Like, it's still pretty rough there. So, you know, it's a process. But yeah, I mean, I'm very interested in seeing what the vision is, because that's the thing. There needs to be a cohesive vision for new stadium, the culture changes you want to make, getting a real Sean Taylor statue that's not a wire mannequin. You know, there's a laundry list of things that I think when ownership ultimately does change hands for $6.05 billion or $6.1 billion or whatever it's ultimately going to be. You have to have a plan now. It feels good, but if you don't have a plan, that doesn't mean anything.
Well, but if nothing else, they'll be able to coast for a while on just not being the Snyders. Like, you know, there's nowhere to go but up in many respects. Two other things we want to hit with you before we run out of time. Lamar. So it's funny, when we talked about the Odell signing on Monday, and the difference between me and you, Charles, is I think you know, right? I'm like, you know what? Odell Beckham just wanted his money. He wanted that APY. He wanted something that was market value for what he thought he still brought to the table. If it was about playing with a good quarterback, he'd have been with Dallas or Buffalo last season. If he just wanted to attach himself to the quarterback. I figured he didn't have any assurances. But what I did think was that this was Baltimore saying, hey, we'll spend money. And even if it's not going in your pocket, Lamar Jackson, we'll spend money on you indirectly by upgrading your supporting cast with a proven veteran receiver. How much does this close the gap, if you will, even if not contractually, personally? Because it's personal for Lamar Jackson, because he's representing himself in this negotiation between Lamar and the Ravens.
I would think that I don't know that it really ultimately changes contractually where any of this is going. I don't think Lamar all of a sudden is going to change his stance because they go out and spend $15 million on Odell Beckham Jr. I do think that for Lamar Jackson, it makes coming back and playing next season on the tag a little more attractive, which is what I think is going to end up happening. I feel like this is what's going to happen. Like he's now looking at a player that he believes is, you know, hey, he's healthy, a dynamic player in this league, they're paying him to be a true number one. So it's another chess piece on the board for him to work with. And frankly, that can help him have a great 2023. And once again, you know, now you're looking at maybe a tag in 2024, but it does help Lamar. But that is the perfect take on it. This was not, it wasn't a two-way street where it's like, okay, you got, you know, Odell coming in from here and Lamar coming in from there. No, it was a one-way street. It was Odell going straight for the money. And if Lamar's there, great. But I still got my $15 million.
Right. I got my 15, and I'm going to get my targets because ain't no other wide receiver to speak of, no disrespect, to compete with. Last thing before we let you go, bro. Speaking of, like, the Ravens, at one point, there was smoke about, could they be an Anthony Richardson sweepstakes? Anthony Richardson might be long gone because we got Joseph Person from The Athletic saying, according to a source of his, don't sleep on Anthony Richardson, that it's not just a two-man race for the Carolina Panthers at number one between Stroud and Young, that Richardson is still under consideration, quote unquote, by the Carolina Panthers. Michael, I told you I'd look at this dude with the number one overall pick. Charles, what are you hearing about A-Rich and the possibility of him going number one to the Panthers? That's the one way to replace Cam Newton, is with the new Cam Newton.
I absolutely think it's legitimate that he is part of the assessment. And it's simply because of when you look at him and what he brings to the table, he has something. He even has a package athletically, as an athlete, that's better than CJ Stroud. It's better than Bryce Young. So, of course, he has to be part of that conversation. But you have to go down the road with Frank Reich about, okay, now what is the plan for development? Let's look at the downside plays when he was at Florida, the limitations, the lack of a long resume there. We need all concrete answers on all of this. It ultimately becomes a conversation not so much about we have to take Bryce Young or we have to take CJ Stroud. It becomes a conversation of we have to make sure we don't pass on special. And if this guy is special, even if it's a longer road, you take the special.
Some people can't help. You can't like Mike, Charles can't help some people. I hope they do it. I do too. Some people just can't help him.
Charles,
you can't help him.
Mike is pounding the table for CJ Stroud at number. He is standing on the table.
Obvious. It's so obvious. He's the best quarterback. It's obvious. It's obvious.
Just clip it. Clip this.
Y'all got too much time. They got too much time to evaluate. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna look at something else. Go ahead, take Anthony Richardson. Go ahead, do it. Congratulations.
Charles, I'll talk to you about 5 minutes about another dynasty trade. Stay by your phone.
All right, I'll talk to you guys later.
So, Mike, I know you hate the Tampa Bay Rays, but I think you'll love this story. My wife hates it. Did I ever tell you that when my wife was pregnant with our first child with Savannah, when she was like getting close and having those pains, they want you to rub the back. You know what I was busy doing in the living room? Turning around the then Devil Rays on MVP Baseball 2005.
You see,
that's my squad right there. That's my team.
She should have left you there. I would have left you right there. Okay, she should have left you. Thank you, Sarah.
You see where my priorities
stand with
were,
this
right?
bum. Come on, that's ridiculous. Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.